All right, I will call to order the meeting of the East Hampton Planning Board for Tuesday, November 24th, 2015. Is there anybody here to speak to anything that is not on the agenda? All right. Planning Board minutes for our November 10th meeting. Did everybody have a chance to look at those?
Yes. I motion to approve the minutes.
Second that.
November 10th meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right. Moving along to A&Rs. O'Neill Street and Lovefield Street, A to Z Storage and Properties. Somebody here for that?
Right there in front of you.
On O'Neill Street, approximately across from Industrial Way, up here is the intersection of Route 10 and O'Neill Street. This is O'Neill Street, there's a building right here, and there's buildings up here. All of this is one lot, it's 13 acres, and we're subdividing it into 2 lots.
Is
Okay.
it along that line there in the middle?
This,
The middle
this line,
is the proposed division?
Yeah.
right, yes.
Okay.
I see that's
So
152.
152 there. Yeah. And
280.
it keeps 280. And we have 140 there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, 140, so.
All right, anybody have any questions?
No, frontage is our issue.
Frontage is there.
I motion to endorse the approval not required for A to Z storage on O'Neill and Lovefield Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions?
Okay, Jesse, so sign Mylar and then 1, 2, 3 of the paper copies. Mylar copy go to the applicant.
And the rest of yours.
The rest are ours.
Very good, thanks a bunch.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you, good luck.
You're not
One
part
more
of,
sign.
you're not part of
One
this pictures tonight, Jesse?
I did mine last night.
Okay.
Good luck with that. The worst night of the year.
No, I told him.
All right, got those? All right, you did.
I can just have that elastic band first. Sorry, keeping the elastic band. We're on a budget crisis.
Yeah. You wanted to take the rubber band?
All right, next up, A&R for 152, oh, do you need this, Jess? A&R for 152 Northampton Street. Somebody here for that?
I am.
All right. Jack.
Thanks, Jesse.
Sorry, I didn't mean to chuck that at you.
All right.
Yes, you did. I second that.
The owners, current owners, own both 150 and 152. The existing line goes like this. So the proposal is to increase the lot size of 152 by 20 feet.
Does that say 80 feet right there?
Now, will be 80 feet, correct, yeah. It was, the lot is currently 60 by 80, and this will increase it to 80 by 80.
And this is the applicant we had last month,
Yeah,
right?
just gonna
Right.
say, the property's under contract to sell, the buyers were in 2 weeks ago for a site plan review,
Yeah.
and their proposed site plan shows parking over here.
Right.
So in order to facilitate the parking and make it big enough to have
We're
enough
adding
parking
20
to make
feet.
it to make it usable, they're adding 20 feet to it.
And so where it's
from this
already
property.
non-conforming?
Because
It's
it's
already
not-
pre-existing non-conforming, and since it's the side lot lines that are being reconfigured, I mean, often it's, the registry just wants to see the planning board signing off on it, so it shouldn't, it's not an issue.
It doesn't matter, right,
Not an
okay.
issue. Yeah.
All right, and that 80 was the only thing that stood out to me, so that seems to cover it. I motion to endorse the approval not required for 152 Northampton Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition or abstention? No. All right.
Okay,
We scribble and we're done.
Have a good one. Yeah, stamp.
No, you can't do that. It's legally required. No.
There's a Mylar and a copy.
Alright. There you go. Perfect. You already know you're not getting your rubber band.
I mean, I will give them one.
You're gonna give it back?
Alright,
Did you sign 2 of these?
yes.
Okay.
For the full, they're usually in the store
I
that
know it's
way.
true, but I have to pass them out to everybody. I don't wanna make,
Extra one.
Hey!
Hey, thanks a lot.
Right.
Alright,
Charge.
thanks, guys. Have a good night.
You too.
Alright, next up, excuse me, A&R for 8 to 10 Spring Street, Sean Hainsworth.
Yeah, hi, I'm Sean.
Sean, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So, so I'm the owner of 6 Elliott Street, and the existing property line cuts very close to the property, and we want to build a fence sort of along the natural tree line. So discussed with the neighbors, and we've got another parcel to add to the 6 Elliott Street lot.
Okay. And so this is the same thing, Jessica,
Kind of
where
the same thing, it's just, you
it
know, the
doesn't make the
side.
frontage?
Yeah, it's
Just
not like there's a
sides.
lot being split in half like the first one, this is more of just, and there's an addition of, oh, that looks like.
Well, it's almost
that
nothing there,
exists,
right? Yeah.
But it actually, if you add that and that together, it ends up being
100.
150. Well, it has to be,
Got it.
right? Is that what it is for this, what's it say on the sheet?
It doesn't say this one.
On the sheet, on the
Oh,
sheet, on the, at the bottom.
100.
Oh,
100.
so it's another pre-existing
It's
non-conforming.
non-conforming, so it
it's-
doesn't make it any less conforming.
Right.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Alright,
Given that, I motion to approve the A&R for the
Endorse.
address. Endorse, sorry, he's
8 to
right,
10 Spring
endorse.
Street.
8 to 10 Spring Street.
Second,
all in favor?
yeah.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions, alright. There we go.
Jim Valancourt. Jim Valancourt, did you second? Who
I
seconded?
think Chet seconded
Chet
that one.
seconded,
I did.
thank you.
I don't know.
Well, I can't help it. Did I feel that? I knew I felt something.
Sent an email briefly, so I'll make a photocopy after the meeting. if you need it. The next thing coming up.
Some of them are.
Yeah, I just have
Mylar.
I'll take some notes on it, but it's fine. Yeah, that's
Alright,
great.
Thank you very much.
thank you. Have a good night.
No, that's good.
Oh, no, I don't know. And that will help.
You can let that in there.
It's okay. Yeah, there's no one. Oh,
That guy's a natural.
well, that's all we know. Yeah, because I just go
Yours
on.
is a paper boy.
But
We got an extra rubber band.
Alright, last but not least, site plan approval for 84 Cottage Street, off the map tattoo. Come on down.
If anybody, I have extra hard copies if anybody needs one. Two more. Anybody? That's it? Sorry.
Never leave home
How'd
without
you
the
guys
site
ever
plan
get
approval.
the name off the map? How'd you ever doing that, out of curiosity?
Going right to the hard hitting
Yeah,
questions.
yeah, we came up with a bunch of, came up with a bunch of names, and then we figured that as far as the tattoo world went,
East Hampton was pretty much
Off the
not on the
Yeah.
map.
that's understandable.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
pretty
I was
good.
just curious, you know, that's all.
All right, we
Originally it
won't
was-
go any further now.
Alright,
That is cool.
so you guys wanna just give us a brief overview of what the plan is?
Sure. We're planning on moving in as renters to 84 Cottage Street and taking over the existing, everything that's there now except for the wood shop, which the landlord owns in the very back. Currently, there's two businesses there. There's a home furnishing store and a wool local felting wool store that has a big warehouse center. And our plan is to take over that entire space that the two tenants have now, and put a tattoo shop in, and potentially a deli or a laser tattoo removal studio.
Tattoo removal,
Does that
interesting.
sound right?
This is perfect.
So you're in the basement now though, right?
We are not.
We're not.
You're not?
Our initial plan was to move into the basement.
Okay.
And then it became, we just ended up renting another space in town because it was less than ideal.
Okay.
And our intent is the same as our previous thing. We, in 5 years, our intent is to buy the entire building and move in to all the entire building and restore it back to a really nice looking building.
All right, so we'll go through the site plan approval criteria here. Conformance with the provision of the ordinances of the city of East Hampton, general laws of Massachusetts, and applicable rules and regulations. And the only thing I can think of with that is you saw the comments from the health department, did you see, just about
Yes.
making sure that anything either with the deli or tattoo shop is
Right.
up to the health code. I
My
didn't
question
see-
was, for you guys, is about the sprinkler system. The fire department wants us to sprinkler the entire building. Is that, what is that based, what criteria is that based on?
I think it's the fire code,
It's
right?
the
But
building
it's-
code and fire code, so it doesn't have anything to do
Even though
with
there's
the
existing retail there now with no sprinkler system, and we're moving in as renters, we have to come in
I
and
don't know, that's a good
fully-
question, and
fully
you should-
sprinkler
You
that?
should bring that up with the building inspector and or the fire with Captain Henneman.
'Cause that's a,
there
that's a pretty
may-
good chunk.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sure it is,
Yeah.
and it's possible, this is what I think. When the station fire happened in Providence, all the fire codes
Mhm.
across the nation changed dramatically and got much
Right.
more stringent. I think these tenants may have been in place before the codes changed, so
I
when
know these tenants
they-
actually moved in after that,
Oh, they
but
have?
I
Oh,
think they
okay.
moved in without any kind of approval.
Oh, okay,
that could be it too.
They've only been there for like 4 or 5 years,
Okay.
so,
okay.
but for us to put in a $30,000 sprinkler system into the space we're renting, it's gonna be pretty tough.
Yeah, I mean,
So
that's
it's not-
outside of our scope completely, so, yeah, I would check with the,
A tenant would have to foot the bill for that cost as
Well, that's
opposed to the
Well,
owner.
we're kind of in a
that's-
special situation because we plan on buying the building anyway,
Right.
so we don't wanna put the burden on the landlord because he's, you know, we're in contract.
Just gonna
for-
pass
That's
it on to you
that's
anyways,
yeah.
a very localized negotiation that happens
Yeah,
between the tenants
right.
and the landlord,
Yeah.
that's not city
Right.
business, quite
Yeah.
frankly.
Might work
Um,
something out with the restaurant.
yeah, so that's with the building inspector and the fire chief.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we can't help with that part.
It's required.
Any other comments or questions about the ordinances or with this plan, guys? Not that
Wanna
I
just
could see.
Walk through them for Jess?
Yeah,
or-
so then protection of city amenities and abutting properties. I don't think there's anything to address with that. You guys don't have, like significant water use or anything like that, right? Yeah.
No,
Vehicular, convenience and safety of vehicular and pedestrian movement, there's no parking requirement, right? For
It's a building that was built before 1976,
6 or something like that,
so it's, the parking requirements are waived for this.
yeah. Right.
and thankfully, we're right across from
any-
municipal.
Yeah.
Any kind of hazardous waste or anything?
Well, yeah, that's the next one, disposal of sewage and refuse, so we've talked about this before when you've been here
Right.
before, so you have a system in place for all of that stuff. What do you use, an off-site contractor or something?
Yeah, we have an offsite contractor that does how often?
Stair
pickup?
cycle, I think they come in, I don't know, every other month, maybe every month.
Okay, and they all take that away and they deal with it on their own?
Yep.
Any other sort of trash or anything other than just sort of?
Just a standard dumpster,
Yeah.
just like any other business.
Okay. Means of protecting wetlands and watersheds, aquifers, I don't think we have any issues with that. Adverse impacts on the city's resources, water and sewage, nothing exceptional there for you guys, right?
No,
Yeah. Off-street loading and unloading of vehicles, any sort of deliveries or things like that beyond sort of
all of our deliveries come in for like UPS, FedEx.
just
so-
regular, yeah, nothing large or anything like that. Efforts to integrate the development into the existing landscape doesn't apply here. Minimization or removal of existing vegetation doesn't
There's
apply.
none.
There's none.
Two trees on the
Consistency of the
side.
development with respect to setback, area placement, parking, architectural style, landscaping, so that doesn't seem to apply either, so, any other board members got a question, Henry?
Yeah, it says down here, it says, let's see, it says, we're gonna have an amazing restaurant and a small performance space fully equipped with cameras, a webcam, and equipment for residents to be staying up and all. It's a small performance space, now what's that gonna mean?
We host a series of educational seminars with tattoo artists that we both record and live stream on the internet for other artists to tune into for professional development.
All right, so it's a small performance, you're not gonna have a band or something in there, are you?
We might have.
If you do that, you're gonna have to have some kind of soundproofing, aren't we?
Well, it depends on what's upstairs.
There is no upstairs.
There's no residential
No
tenants,
upstairs?
it's the old theater, so.
Alright.
Oh, that's right.
So you can't do it in like a sides or
Typically,
anything? so
typically the
next door?
board has required soundproofing when there's neighbors upstairs that,
Residences.
How about next door?
We've got a parking lot on both sides.
you want to set hours of operation. for
Yeah, would you have
music
any-
or
Amy's is on one side of us, and who's on the other side?
Bookstore?
The bookstore.
What's your hours?
We are open from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and some of our seminars run late to midnight.
With music?
We don't usually have music. I'm just saying.
I just added.
Yeah, most of the time it's quiet instructional tattooing, but I'm not saying that there might not be a chance where there is, somebody playing some music there at one point or another, which is why we put that in there.
Well, I just think that's great, I mean, I'm not, I just wanna make sure I can be about as many Doherty, that's all.
Yeah, of course.
We've had it with music, bother neighbors.
Theater.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Kind of a performance space.
the current shop is right next to Luther's Co-op, so we're pretty well aware of the neighbors across the street.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you want to discuss conditions or something with that, or
No,
are you
no,
comfortable
no,
with
I mean,
the location?
No, I think.
Oh, yeah, no, let it go the way it is, I was just curious.
Yep.
If he's gonna have music, I just thought of, but there's nobody upstairs anyway, so don't worry about it.
Right.
Hard rock or anything.
And just for the record, the Conservation Commission said there's no Wetlands Protection Act jurisdiction, they had no comments. As I mentioned, the Health Department just noted that tattoo parlor and any food establishment has to be dealt with through the Health Department and the sprinkler issue from the fire chief, so those are the comments from other departments.
For the decision, can I get clarification on the square footage of the proposed restaurant? Because there's no square
Oh
footage
yeah, there's no
numbers.
scale on the plan, is there?
Well,
No,
there's
it mentions the
there's
square
no
footage for the whole.
footage. It mentioned the square footage for
For
the,
the entire,
The entire place?
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
a 2,500 square foot studio,
Mhm.
so that's that last paragraph, is that just, the 2,500 is just,
That would be the space here.
All of the yellow?
Yeah, the yellow. I'm not
Which
actually
might be a
sure.
little bit,
I'm not actually sure on that number.
500, 600 square
It's
feet?
probably like 600-800.
you know what that front room
This
is?
is probably 800 to 900 square feet is my guess. Because these are like 400. This is like a 400 square foot.
Okay.
So it's a pretty small area right here.
Okay.
Do you wanna say nine?
Do we need an exact number, Jessica? Or?
I mean, I don't need it, it's just helpful to have, in the narrative of the description, the decision,
where it's at.
when it describes the application and what's being
Okay.
presented. I basically wanna be able to state that the restaurant is kind of, it's not the primary use
Right.
in the space, it's the secondary use, but
Are we,
maybe you're basically approving two different
that's what I'm wondering,
things, is
Yeah.
so are
what's
we,
going on,
so
So
I
we're
mean,
more
do we
concerned
need-
with the blue?
do we need
Right.
more
Square footage?
information from an applicant about the restaurant, or are we,
I think they're getting it pre-approved, I mean,
Okay.
basically, they're taking the step for whatever business may wanna move in there, so if you have any questions regarding the restaurant portion of what they're proposing, that needs to be vetted now. I mean,
Yeah, I
again,
mean-
you've gone through everything and it doesn't seem to
I guess,
be
I
an
mean, have you
issue,
talked to
but-
people about possible tenants or anything like that?
Yeah.
You have, and do you have somebody in mind? I mean, you don't need to disclose anything you don't wanna disclose, but,
Yes.
okay, do you have an idea about what kind of the plan is and that sort of stuff? I think the main thing for a restaurant is probably hours and
No.
trash removal and,
We haven't
Water.
gone that far, like I said, I've also talked to a laser removal company in case the restaurant is gonna get too complicated.
okay,
Again, we're renting, we don't wanna make it any more complicated than.
right.
Yeah.
I do have.
Well, we'd like to
I
be a
have
restaurant.
plans with square footage on them. Which I have them with you. I can give you that information, but I
You
just
can
can't give
just-
it to you
if
right.
you wanna
I
just
can't give
email
it
it
to
to
you
me.
right now.
If
Okay.
you wanna email it to me, I just wanna get that number into the, I think as long as we're all clear that the primary use really is the tattooing aspect of it, and that the restaurant is more of the secondary use of what you're asking.
Yeah,
for.
How
I mean,
about-
all of this yellow space is what we intend to occupy.
Right.
Right.
And
Right.
if it was the laser removal stuff, that's something you guys would do?
That would be an outside. It would be an outside.
Somebody
sublet.
else?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And, what does that entail for sort of, I mean, is there
As far as garbage,
machinery or?
like, as far as like waste removal, there's almost none, it's just
Yeah.
office. It's basically, it's like a small medical office, but it's not, it's just a laser machine and a chair.
Right,
Okay.
I believe we're currently licensed to do laser
I was just
removal
gonna
at
ask
our.
if you're
We're
registered
we're
or
currently
licensed
licensed,
to
but
do that.
we don't have, the location that we're in doesn't have a room that closes doors,
Okay,
so it's like, completely separate. So we're licensed to it, but we can't fulfill the requirements, so we
Yeah.
haven't had laser in there.
okay.
But fulfilling those requirements is a health, you go to the health department and fill out all the
Yeah.
forms and.
And no, there's no sort of deliveries or anything like that, that seems to be,
No,
okay.
very
And-
limited supplies go into the laser removal.
Right.
It's like,
It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
So just so I understand when I'm drafting this, so it's gonna be either a restaurant or a laser removal? It's kind of like an either.
well,
or situation.
we're in negotiations
Yeah.
with different people to sublet the space right now.
Okay. Hmm.
So,
So I
I
wonder
mean-
if maybe what the board considers is not, it is recognizing that there's gonna be something else. It just makes it complicated with the decision because,
I mean, is it
Should we
better
have
to
them come
just?
back with an,
well, whoever the tenant's gonna be, they could certainly come
Right, I
back.
mean, we
they would
could
come
approve
back,
it
your
for,
tenants.
I mean, I think we can
That's-
approve it
yeah,
for,
whatever the applicants sort of wanna.
right, I mean, one of the things we could do that sort of logically makes sense is we could approve it for tattoo and tattoo removal, cause those are sort of consistent, and you guys have given us that information about what that would be. The restaurant part sort of has a lot of possible different permutations, so maybe if you
Come
do
back
that, they could
yeah.
come back and modify, right? They wouldn't even need
You just modify.
a new application, and we could modify that to add whatever the restaurant is, we could see
Sure.
what they have planned for their use.
I mean,
Would that work for you
That
guys?
sounds completely reasonable to me.
Okay.
Okay.
It's hard to approve a restaurant when we don't know what they're doing and all
I mean,
that.
yeah, it's
And I
not,
know-
we're in the same
and
boat.
you're
It's
in
hard
the-
for us to
right.
plan without, when we're not exact. We had a very definitive plan and it changed,
Okay,
so.
all right, rolling with it.
Yeah,
This blue space isn't currently set up as a restaurant, is it?
No.
it's currently a home furnishings retail.
Okay.
Okay, so I would suggest that we do that. Does that make sense to the board?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. Can I get a motion?
well, let's clarify this. We're only approving a part of it. How do we motion to do that?
I think we're approving the whole thing for use as both tattoo
And
laser
laser.
removal.
and laser
Not-
tattoo
And
removal.
then a condition that any additional tenants would need to come before the board for additional permitting.
I don't know if we need to even add that. We're just
No.
approving for these
Just approve that
things.
and leave
Just
it out.
approve that.
If
and
they need to come modify it, they can come modify it.
Right, and as their business plan changes and evolves and they get a more clear view of what the plan is for the future, then if there's a
Okay.
restaurant, then I think that there could be high impacts with a restaurant and it'd be worth for the board to
Right.
take that as its own separate entity
Okay.
rather than,
So I motion to approve the site plan approval for 112 Cottage Street for the usage of tattoo removal and tattooing.
84 times.
It's 80.
Sorry,
Yeah, they're at 112, just to
Yeah.
confuse things.
please modify that motion to say 84 Cottage Street.
Okay. Can I get a second?
second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All
It's
right.
nice to go to the movies there when I was in Majestic Theater.
Yeah, everybody used to go.
I hope it was the
I don't
early
know if
days.
you wanna
of
be
Majestic
admitting that
Theater,
here.
not the later days.
Yeah,
depends
right.
on when you were going to the movie, what
right, 'cause it-
decade.
It became a
I
very
remember when they
different
were
theater.
showing X-rated movies there. so-
Yeah,
I
you
know,
did just
that's what I'm saying.
remember, you're on video here, okay?
Yeah.
All right, folks, so we have to put together a written decision
Yep.
within 2 weeks.
Yep.
Probably sooner, and then, what is it, 20 days to appeal?
No appeal because it's a site
Oh,
plan
site plan
approval, so
approval.
once,
All right.
once the decision is timestamped by the city clerk, you're good to go.
All right,
Great.
good luck, guys.
Thank you all.
Have a good day. All right. Any administrative items that didn't make the agenda?
No.
All right. Can I get a motion to
I
adjourn?
make a motion that we adjourn.
Someone else do it.
Second.
There you go.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you all.
Well done, sir.
Shut this off now?
Yeah.